Welcome to CWU Live. Thank you for joining us again. Today's episode is all about building the union with a focus on how members can get involved in union structures. The details, of course, of how any trade union works can be somewhat confusing. I'm still getting my head around it. And to make it all a bit clearer, today we've got a crack team of people who've had so many different roles in the union, I have to say. I was learning about it all today. In the studio, I have Greg Charles, Branch Secretary for London South West Postal, which I keep hearing is one of the best organised branches in the country. Unfortunately, I've just heard you're a Millwall supporter.
I said don't talk football. We don't do football. But yeah, the best branch. The best branch.
Yeah, not the best team, according to last night.
We'll see.
I'm also joined by Kate Walsh, member of the CWU National Executive. Today's a special day for you. You celebrate it every year. It's your 41st anniversary of working for BT.
It is today, yeah, for my sins, yeah.
And this episode is going to be sort of partly what you can get out of sort of joining your union, getting sort of engaged, organised in your union. And I suppose people might be able to guess from your surname that you got a husband out of the CWU.
I did, yes. I'm very lucky.
No, he's a lucky one.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah. Well, I didn't like to say that.
But also, I said you've 41 years working for BT. You became a union rep almost straight away, didn't you? So 41 years.
Yeah, within a month.
Yeah.
I went on the committee, became a rep, yeah. So, yeah, I've done it
So you
for
got a lot of
long
experience.
time. Yes.
And you joined straight after nursery, you were saying?
Nursery.
Oh, don't
It's the only way it makes sense mathematically, I think.
I wish.
I'm also joined by Chris Webb. You'll know Chris as the head of communications for the CWU. You've had multiple roles in the union and you support Plymouth, so you're in a better mood than Greg at the moment.
I'm in a really better mood, and the winning at 5-1 against Millwall was the second best result of our week.
This could be the shortest CWU live ever.
Yeah.
And didn't you say you there was coincidentally a CWU meeting in Plymouth
Yeah.
when on the day of the FA Cup match with Liverpool?
Oh, I wasn't going to mention us beating Liverpool. Not
All right,
if I
okay.
have to, Michael.
You haven't mentioned my team,
Who do you support?
Port Vale.
And how are they doing?
Oh, well, they're in quite a low league, but yeah, they're still...
That's why they've not been mentioned, Kate.
Okay, thanks for that, Greg. Love you too.
All right, so as I said, the crew we have assembled here have all had many different roles in the union, loads and loads of experience. So I suppose what I'm going to try and do is sort of squeeze out all of that experience from you, and hopefully that's going to be useful for you guys watching if you're already representatives for the union, or if you're thinking of becoming more involved in the union. As ever on this show, we really want to hear your comments and your questions. I'll be putting them to my panel, to my guests. Are you already a CWU rep? Are you thinking of becoming one? If not, why not? How could you be persuaded? Let us know in the comments and I can put your questions to our guests. So in terms of squeezing out your experiences, Chris, I wanted to start with you. Obviously, you're now in a very senior role in the CWU. You started, though, as a local rep on night shifts in a sorting office in the late 1990s in Plymouth. So talk to me about that journey.
So, yeah, I mean, it was really a bit of a baptism of fire. I won't name the name of the senior union official because that would be wholly inappropriate, but I can remember coming to a senior rep, quite a controversial agreement at the time being reached by the union's leadership, the way forward agreement. And I can remember this specific senior rep coming to our sorting office in Plymouth and setting out, why we should vote for the agreement. But in what I felt was like an overly aggressive fashion, more than recommending, instructing to vote. And I remember sort of putting my hand up and saying, you're meant to be on our side and working for us, not us working for you. And I remember, like, straight after it, sort of a lot of the senior characters in the office put my arm around me and saying, we need a rep. And sort of like, from there really became the rep at the night shift in Plymouth, which I loved because I loved being on nights at that time. It was a bit of extra money as you get your night shift allowance, and started representing people and then ultimately stood for about a year or so later, not too long, stood to be the area rep, which was all of Plymouth and Truro, which was like another fantastic experience.
That's interesting, though. I hadn't realised that. So when you sort of got involved in the union, that was partly because you felt like the leadership at that time wasn't necessarily representing you in the way you wanted it to.
Yeah, I mean, it was more really, it wasn't like, because I didn't have the experience to understand all of the complexities of the agreement at the time, but it was more the fact that, you know, I mean, now, you know, in the role I'm in now, probably, you know, it proves me right even more, is that if something's right, then it will stand on its own 2 feet. You don't have to like ram it down people's throats. And I felt it was beyond the hard sell. It was like semi-intimidatory, and you know, that's not what we wanted. And that agreement actually didn't go through nationally, and you know, led to other things in the union. One of which, a very small cock, was me becoming a local rep.
And you had a spell on the travelling post office, which doesn't exist anymore, right?
It doesn't exist. Not for that. Not because I had a spell on it. But yeah, no.
You weren't the last ever travelling post
Yeah,
office.
no,
right?
it was a great experience. Did that for like a really small time. It was great money coming back to and forth to London, and meeting some brilliant people as well. But you know, I don't want to get involved in the industrial negotiations of the union, but you know, get mail back on trains ASAP.
Oh, well, actually, you want that to return?
Yeah, I would love it to return. I think.
Area rep, Plymouth and Cornwall, age 21, 2001. Elected divisional rep, age 23 for South Wales and South West. You told me earlier, youngest ever official.
Youngest ever field official in the union. It's interesting we've got Kate here tonight, actually, because Kate's lesser half, Martin, the Deputy General Secretary Postal, for a long time claimed that he was the youngest ever
He still does.
divisional rep. He still, Kate says, still
claims
does.
it, yeah.
He wasn't, I was, but age shouldn't matter. It's effectiveness, and Martin was an outstanding divisional rep. But that was a role I loved in the union. But if I'm being honest with you, my favourite time in the union, even counting now, was when I was the local and area rep in Plymouth. I mean, you know, Greg will probably, you know, pay testament to the fact of like when you have that level of sort of engagement locally, and I want control's the wrong word, but I'll use control in a positive of like people's sort of like, you know, livelihoods and improving them. It's a special feeling, and I guess the further you go in the union, the less day-to-day contact you have with stuff like that, you know.
And Greg, let's go to you. Let's start real back to basics. Actually, you're a branch secretary, London South West Postal.
Yep.
What does a branch secretary do?
Well, various roles and responsibilities, and I suppose from a branch secretary's point of view, they will be the administrative sort of side of it, take care of the membership side, the finance, the accounts, and probably organising all of the other sort of area reps as well, making sure that, you know, coming together, holding meetings and that. But it can extend to, and it certainly does in the roles that I do, is that I will get involved in some of the negotiations as well. So it's very much a broad, wide-ranging role responsibility that you can develop it into within your own branch structure as well. So you shouldn't be constrained about what your roles and responsibilities are, you know, as they come on in sort of in play and in front of you, take it on and develop it into your own as well.
And how did you come to that position? Tell us a bit about your journey.
Again, very much linked to Martin Walsh, Dave Ward, London South West branch. So I took over as a branch secretary from Martin, obviously DGSB. Took that on in 2002. So now I've been the branch secretary for best part of 23 years. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. I went from local representative straight into the branch secretary's role.
Yeah. So 23 years. What have you learnt in that time? Top three bullet points.
What have I learned? The first is stay engaged with the members. Absolutely stay engaged with the members. No matter what role, again, responsibility you have within the union, if you engage on the shop floor with the membership, face to face, in meetings, you will always stay connected to that membership. And I think that, for me, is the biggest lesson. It's the biggest lesson that I believe anyone who has a job role within the CWU should always stay connected with the membership right at the on the shop floor.
It's an elected position, isn't it, branch?
Yes.
Secretary. So
Yeah.
how often do you have to be re-elected, or how often
Yearly.
are elections? Yearly.
Yearly, yeah.
So you've won 23 elections.
I suppose so, but I would take it that if thankfully
They're often
from
not
my point,
contested.
nobody stands against me. There's probably a number of reasons who would really want to do it at this moment in time. I think that's part of what this
I
show's
think you're
going
doing
to be.
yourself a disservice there, Greg.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
and hopefully people think I do a decent job.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Although maybe if we're really effective on this show, you'll have some real challenges in.
Yeah, well, hopefully if I'm effective on the show, I don't get a challenge.
It could go both ways. It could
Yeah,
go both
exactly,
ways.
exactly.
Kate, as we said at the beginning, 41 years,
Yeah.
working for BT, 41 years in the union.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your experiences.
Wow. I don't know where to start. I mean, obviously, when I first joined BT, I'd been active in the Labour Party, which is why, hence, I got involved in the union straight away. It was a closed shop at the time, so everybody had to join the union then. So when you signed your contract, you signed your union form, and the days. I do. But yeah, I started off doing, your rep kind of things, getting more involved in the union, starting to do little cases, but go to conference, build the experience. I did the courses. I mean, the CWU have done excellent courses to get us accredited and trained. Then I started doing cases. I took over as the chair eventually at Stoke-on-Trent. You probably noticed by the accent, I'm not, even though I live in London, I don't sound like one. So I did that. I mean, I moved down here to London beginning of 2001, I think it was. And I then eventually was secretary and chair of a big branch in London, which is now Capital Branch in London. I was on national teams, then onto the Telecom Tech Financial Services Executive and the National Executive of the Union. Now, some of the struggles probably I have faced, well, not particularly myself, but I do see that it is difficult being a woman, especially years ago at that time, because a lot of gender stereotypes, for want of a better word, and gender roles. I know a lot of my colleagues, female colleagues in the union, who were only offered roles as the canteen rep. I was really lucky because the branch chair at the time of the Stoke-on-Trent clerical branch was a woman. And in fact, I've been really lucky in all the branches that we've always had a strong female presence, but that's not reflected across all the branches, certainly not there. And you do get, I mean, even today, you have a meeting and it is predominantly white male of a certain age, to be fair. I think it has improved, and I certainly think the CWU has been very committed to improving the gender inequality, not just for the gender, across everything with the not just on gender, but with, ethnicity, all manner of things to try and get this membership reflect the executives, the branch level, at all levels in the union, to be reflective of the membership. And it is difficult because you've got your gender stereotypes, but you've also got your gender roles. And I think there is a difference because as a female, you do tend to have more caring responsibilities, and that is difficult because I've got a son, and you've got to balance being the main carer really, because it does fall, whether we like it or not, it falls mainly on females. So it's trying to balance that, and I think that sometimes is a barrier to women getting involved. Not just the fact you've got the fact that you've got all these other responsibilities, but you've also got the fact that when you come into it, it is very male dominated, and it's difficult to get in because unless you have got, I think it is a lot better now, but certainly in the past, unless you've got a very sympathetic or very somebody who wants to bring on women, it is difficult to get into the mainstream of being a proper rep. I mean, now we have got women's officers, which is a real positive step forward. I mean, actually, I've never been the women's officer of my branch, but it is an excellent way for women to get involved, to try, and move on to raise the issues that affect women. We've got all the equality strands, whether it is, as I say, on all the equality strands, we have got roles in the branches to reflect that, which weren't there when I first started in the branch. But I was really, really lucky. I moved through the ranks. I have absolutely loved being a rep in the branches. I love doing what I'm doing now, I love, and as Greg said, we've got to remember though, we always have to remember why we're doing this, and it's always got to be about the members. And, sometimes people say, now I'm on the national executive, or when you are not doing more of a branch role, maybe we're losing touch with the members. But actually, we do, I mean, I am still a rep of my branch too. I still will, go as long as, when I've got chance, because obviously as a national official, we're negotiating with the company at national level, with negotiations, consultations. But, you know, I still help out. I still represent members, and I think you need that. You need that grounding, and you never forget your base. I mean, that's the main thing, and I think that's a really important thing to do.
And on the gender issue, because as far as I understand it, Postal, the workforce has been quite male, and presumably it was more the case in the past. What's on the BT side? Was there a lot more?
Well, it depends.
Obviously, there are a lot of women that work on the postal side, but it's sort of it's not
once again,
50-50.
You're right, because at the time you've got more of the engineering side was predominantly male. You've got the clerical side, which I originated from, which was predominantly female. Of course, you've got the operators that are now within BT that were, well, I can't remember seeing a male operator, certainly when I first started in BT. So you that's what I'm saying. So you did have these set roles. I mean, nowadays in BT specifically, which is where I work for, you find in call centres now, they're mainly young people. They can be both really nowadays because, you know, call centre roles attract from anywhere. But you've still got, I mean, there's only 999 people now. You haven't got the old 192 or the operators so much, but they're, I would say, predominantly female. Engineering now is a lot better than it used to be. It still needs to improve, but, you know, Openreach BT have done a lot of work themselves to try and get more engineers, female engineers into the company. And they have been successful in that. It's just retaining those people. So that's... In the engineering, I'd still say it was predominantly male, but there are a lot more female people that are working for BT nowadays. So,
and presumably it's the same for Postal. I don't know who to ask.
Greg,
you might know more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fortunate. I've got a couple of really good young female reps that have come on board over the last couple of years. They pushed that door open. That you know has been ultimately a barrier because it's male dominated. But the work that the union's been doing in terms of very much being led now by Kate in the education and training department around workshops and seminars that are, you know, for females to attend. That gives them that sort of opportunity to learn through not only doing the job but through experiences of others as well. So yeah, I've got a couple that hopefully will be going on a seminar workshop that is being organised for the back end of March, I believe. So yeah, it's better. It can be better, but yeah, it's miles better than what it used to be, and that is because we have more females working in the postal industry. So the door's definitely open, but there are barriers still. Kate's absolutely right. Fundamentally, they are predominantly more of the looking after the children, but we've got more part-time jobs and more part-time roles in there. So we're able to sort of get into those opportunities for other people, of females, and that. So yeah, it's better, and we're can be better, and we're striving for it to be better. So yeah, it's all right. It's going well.
Chris, for you, let's talk about your current job.
Yeah.
Head of communications. Who are you mainly communicating to? Are you communicating to the public? Are you communicating to members? Are you communicating to government? Where do you sort of see your main role?
Well, I mean, in many ways, everyone and all those stakeholders you set out, Michael. But I think both Kate and Greg have touched on it, and it's the same point, which is our primary focus is on looking after our members and engaging our members. And the other thing is, I think if you engage your members well enough, then the public, the politicians, the media will take notice of what you're doing. And one of the things that I picked up when I got this role, I can remember really, really early on having to write something. It was about political. It was actually when Labour had lost an election, the 2015 general election to the Cameron government, and we were in the process of writing who we would nominate for the next stage and all that sort of stuff. And I drafted a communication for Dave to issue, which Dave obviously signed off. And I was speaking to some of our team then who worked in across the union. And their view on it was like, oh, we like this, but like Labour don't really like it when we speak to them like that and in that fashion. And at that point, it was a really good lesson for me, because at that point, and them, I guess, because at that point I sort of really doubled down on the like, we represent postal, telecom, tech, financial services workers. We're going to look like them. We're going to be like them. We're going to talk like them. And if Labour don't like that, then that's tough on Labour. If the press don't like it, that's tough on the press. So, we do obviously have a really good, I think, an effective press strategy. Stuff like this, I think, is part of it, Michael, in terms of how we reach out differently. I mean, there'll be members watching this, but if we're here with Dave and Martin talking about a strike, or Karen talking about a strike, then there's every journalist joining in, they're clipping it, and it's a piece in the Daily Mail attacking the union. So, all of our communications have like sort of multifaceted angles, but, the members are the most important.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to something you said before. When you joined BT, it was a closed shop.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose our younger viewers might not know what a closed shop
Oh, sorry,
is.
yeah, of course.
Don't apologise. Just it's an interesting talking point. To talk about what a closed shop union was like. How was it? Obviously, it means that everyone to start that job needed to join the union.
Yeah.
How different did that make it feel?
Well, of course, people can argue both ways against the pros and cons of a closed shop. Obviously, from a union perspective at the time, everybody had to join the union when you started to work for BT. You signed the contract for employment at the same time as you signed your membership form. So every person in BT was a member of the union. Now, obviously, that was great in the respect when you're doing the collective negotiations on pay and terms and conditions, everybody's a union, and obviously the more people that are in your union, the stronger you are. We all stand together. We need that density, and 100% membership was fantastic. But as time has gone by, the laws were changed, and now people can choose to be in a union or not. I mean, obviously we can talk. Well, we'll probably talk for days on why people should be in a union. But nowadays, it is still important. It's vitally important that people do join the union, because the higher the density of membership, the more powerful the union can be. And the voices of the members can be heard more when there's more of you to do that. So, yeah, it is harder now because we have to make sure that we get to people that are starting the job, to make sure we get them signed up, explain now, because it is different. Because when I started, the unions were very big at the time. Everybody was a member of the union. We had the miners' strike. The unions were very big politically. We all have grown up, and of these people of certain ages. Obviously, people probably guess how old I am from what you said before. But we were always brought up with that kind of thing. Nowadays, it's not the same. Apart from people hear about the RMT quite a lot, because we hear that, and other big unions. People are not. They haven't been brought up with unions being the big unions, and this is what's happening. They were, predominant on the television quite a lot. So it's trying to get the message over why people should be in a trade union. What is the benefit of being in a trade union? And we have got a fantastic density, both I know in Royal Mail and in BT, which is useful, because that's why we do have great agreements within BT. I mean, I know because obviously I deal with BT on a daily basis, and in Royal Mail, I mean, I know we do have disputes, not as many in BT, I admit, but in the main we've got some great agreements there for them, and I think people need to remember the fact that we only work 5 days predominantly, when we get weekends off. I mean, that's all because of trade unions. So I think it's about educating people to why they need to be in a trade union. So yeah, perhaps we have to work harder to maintain that high membership, but that is the difference with a closed shop, because you have to be in it.
I suppose in a way a closed shop might have encouraged a bit of complacency as well, because you don't have to fight for new members, because they've got no choice but to join.
Maybe
Well,
so.
it's something. I mean, that point alone is the fact that it's about engagement, and if it being not a closed shop, the fact is we've got to go out and we've got to recruit. You've got to talk to people. So. And it's not just a rep's job to do that. I mean, it's literally everybody, every activist that's on the shop floor can do that. But for a local rep, that engagement with somebody who's new walking through the door is your first point of contact. And that then leads to people believing that there is a union within the workplace, there's a confident union rep in the workplace, they'll join the union, and then from that's where you build your solidarity. You know what I mean? People then feel part of a workforce. I mean, it's been tough over the last 2 or 3 years. We've had the major dispute in 22, 23. Yeah. From that, obviously throughout that dispute, there was no recruitment coming through the door, and then all of a sudden the dispute finished, and the floodgates came in. The problem was they was on new terms and conditions. There was a lack of confidence with the local reps because they'd literally been beaten up during the dispute. So that engagement with new people coming through, different times, different views, different ways of thinking for these youngsters coming through the door en masse. It's been difficult, but again, it comes through a confident union rep, knowing what they're talking about, engaging with new people, signing them up, and we have seen over the last 3, 4, maybe 5 months that it's starting to shift. People, the recruitment slowed down, but the engagement has got better, and we've started to get new members coming into the union as well. And people turn around and say it's not like what it used to be. Well, it never is. The next generation, it never is. I mean, it's such a outdated old saying, but everybody uses it because it never will be the same. But I do see these young people coming through, joining a union, and it's for us to install to them what a union's about. And when they get themselves in trouble, or there's issues that they face, if it's a day off that they need, they've got no one else to turn to because the management ain't going to just give it to them. They need a union rep to go in for them. So once they get that and they feel that somebody's looking after them, looking after their best interests, and they're for them on a day-to-day basis, they'll join, and then they become a union member. Because being a union member is not just about paying your subs at the end of the week or the end of the month. Being a union member is more about being together, being strong. The old watchwords of solidarity and together are stronger, and all of them nice fluffy words that we tend to throw out there, but they do mean something. And people see that in a workplace, and we're building on that. And I do. I'm always a half glass full kind of person, but I do believe that it is out there, and people are understanding that coming out of the dispute, there is a future. Tough as it is, there is a future. So,
And from what you're saying, is it slightly harder to recruit younger people than it was in the past?
It is. It is. They have a different view on the world. I mean, look, if you've been going through the education system as it has been for the last 10 to 15 years, and without going deep into the political world, the landscape of people's views have changed over the last 15 years that we've been through. So their views, their opinions are different to what they would have been a generation ago. But that's what I'm saying. They'll come into the workplace, and in an industrial workplace, a lively workplace that is still very much like what it used to be decades ago, and they start to understand. Working with older people, working with older generations, that way of working, being together with them, whether they're 20 years old or 60 years old, in the workplace, it doesn't matter. You're all as one. So I do see that changing, and I do believe it. But it is tough. Yeah. It is tough.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I suppose like having a cross section of society all organising together is somewhat rare in society now. I'm sounding like it's not like what it used to be when everyone used to hang out together, whatever their age. Chris, let's go to a couple of questions. Someone called Cheers. Seems the union is in bed with the new owners. Why on earth are we agreeing to this new way of working with no care for the workers' well-being? We're going to be knackered doing 2 to 3 days work every day.
So, I mean, obviously...
I'm not sure quite, what... Explain what the background to that is going to be as well. Is this about the pilots, do you think?
Oh, about a relation to the pilots to take over of Royal Mail Group. I think, people like Martin and Tony Booch and Dave have been on in very recent shows. So if the member wants to look back at that, I would really recommend it. But I mean, the union in bed with the current owners, the future owners, I think is a semi-ridiculous statement, to be honest with you, because I think when the dispute happened, it was so bitter, and Greg's talked about it, and so difficult and so wearing for our members and our reps. I mean, the attacks were just so outrageous. I mean, actually, it can bring you a bit of good news to the members hot off the press. One of the main tools used to attack postal workers during that dispute was Royal Mail's social media platform Workplace, and I was told today that that's been announced for closure. So there you go. It's a little bit of hot off the press, good news for everyone. But in terms of being in bed, I mean, honestly, I was lucky enough and privileged to attend some of those negotiations with Martin Walsh and Dave Ward with EP Group, with Daniel Kretinsky. I mean, you're talking here, one of the most powerful businessmen in Europe, were multi-billionaire. And I watched Dave and Martin move him and his colleagues around the room and force an agreement on things that they didn't want an agreement on, that Royal Mail would have never in a million years counter-announced an agreement on, and really reinstate the union back in the workplace. And I guess this session being what it is, about building confidence, about building people's ability to get back in the workplace, the challenge now is how the whole union picks this up and makes it work. It's not for Dave Ward or Martin Walsh or Tony Booch or Davey Robertson, just, what are you doing? It's what are we doing collectively? So I have a role in that, in communications. People like Greg have a role in that in the branch and rebuilding confidence. So in terms of the pilots, look, they are pilots. And that's a sign of strength for the union as well. Many unions would have not had the strength to be able to hold off an employer. The whole thing would have been in. Whereas we've got now a set of pilots. We've also got a very clear agreement with the future of owners of Royal Mail EP Group that unless we agree the outcome of the USO, then nothing moves forward. And listen, the world is changing. As Dave would say, the world of communications is changing. We have to accept that, but we've got a really solid deal here that protects members. Also, it gives them options to more Saturdays off. People have been crying for that. 4-day weeks, 9-day fortnights. So our message to reps would be, get out there and get hold of this. Get out there and ask your members what they want from this. Don't worry about what Royal Mail are telling you they want from it. That's their prerogative. But what really matters is what the union wants here. And I think we need to be coming out of this, as Tony Booch said a couple of weeks ago when he was on here, putting our proposals on the table. We're meeting reps around the country. There's 37 pilot offices. We're meeting reps that aren't even in the process, are nowhere near being a pilot office or an implemented office, who are coming to us and saying, when this comes in, my office I'm going to propose a 4-day week. When this comes in, I've worked out a duty pattern where everyone can have every other Saturday off. That's what we need from the reps and members. Let's not sit back and be victims of what some half-witted local manager wants in a delivery office. Let's get out there. Let's really grab hold of this, and let's rejuvenate the union in workplaces across the country.
Yeah, and I suppose I want to talk to you, Greg, actually, about this, because on this show, CWU Live, I'm often talking to people who are in the national office, and they're in negotiations with, the bosses of Royal Mail and the government, or BT and the government. People at the very top of those organisations. Are you in frequent negotiations with sort of the local managers? What's that relationship like?
Yeah, we'll be negotiating certain elements of new duty patterns, attendance times, national issues that come out, whether it's the network change, whether it is now the pilots. So we're very much focused now, keeping an eye on how the pilots are developed, but very much in line with what Chris has just said. It's what opportunities are there within the frameworks that the national officers have negotiated. What can I take back to the local level to impart that sort of information to the local reps, to ensure that when they are looking at making changes, they've already got ideas on how to implement some changes but get something out of it. And the opportunities that are there is creating more work-life balance, with more innovative duty patterns. We've obviously got now very much a policy that we want more Saturdays off, and we want that on the back of at least minimum of a 9-day fortnight. So over a 2-week period, you work 4 days. Over the second week, you work 5 days. We want to go further than that. There's opportunities there that we can start initiating some of that dialogue at the local level, so that we're prepared for that. It's difficult, because we've got to get our local reps in a position where they fully understand what the changes could be, what the pilots are looking to deliver. And what I mean by that is that it's not all set in stone, as Chris has just outlined there, and previous, Dave and mine have said as well. It's not a done deal. that we've got on the table very much what we want to come out of that. And if we don't get it, then there's going to be a problem. There will be a problem in terms of Royal Mail just won't walk away, but neither will we. So when we say about getting in bed with people, it's so far away from the truth. And local people know that. Again, it's about engaging not just with the local reps, but holding meetings with the membership, building on that solidarity that I said, that this change is coming down the line. We all need to stand together, and we all need to then put forward our ideas. Because not every rep's going to have the idea. Not every branch secretary or area rep's going to have the idea. The people that can come up with ideas and innovative duty patterns on how to build in that can be the local people as well, our members, the people that are actually doing that. So again, I see it as a massive opportunity, not without its problems, but we've got to take the opportunities that we're given, and we've got to start developing the ideas right now, and it's there for the taking. So yeah, I think there's a good opportunities out there that we can really get to grips with.
I suppose one issue you might have as a sort of local rep is people have different desires, because you've got to make collective agreements, and people have different priorities. And I've got an example here, which is Jam 0119. There's a few messages coming from Jam 0019 because he sounds very upset about the pilots, and he says, "I don't want Saturdays off. I'm quite happy with my current structure. Why should I be having it changed at the behest of some pilot I have no interest in partaking in? For the workers' well-being, we are going to be knackered doing 2 to 3 days work every day." Presumably some members are prioritising Saturdays off. Some members want it to stay the same. How do you navigate that kind of situation? Do you often have sort of your members in your division sort of divided on issues like that?
All the time.
All the time?
All the time.
And how does that play out?
It plays out in the way that, one, you communicate with them. You let them know what the actual issue is, what the change going to be, and then from that you can start to develop the idea. So look, if Jan wants to work Saturdays, he can. That gives the opportunity for more people to have Saturdays off because there's somebody ready-made to work Saturdays. So yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all. We've moved very much away from that. If you're on a 5-day week, a 9-day fortnight, 4-day week, 7-day fortnight, whatever it isn't just one size fits all. And we can develop duty rotates and patterns where people are working different shifts. We're moving to a position now that, dare I say, deliveries, collections, and them barriers of what we would call functionalised working. So you just do a delivery, you just do a collection. That's all sort of been broken down now. So deliveries are doing collections. Collections, people who collect are delivering stuff. So we've got plenty of opportunity to, throw everything into the mixing bowl and come out with different variations of innovative duty patterns that then have to fit what the pilots are looking at. And if there is an agreement to change the USO in that way, then we've got something that we can start to overlay as well. So, Jam and anybody else that's asking the question around, well, we don't want to change, there will be changes, but we'll minimise the effects that it has on people by being innovative. And people want to work Saturdays, if people want to work Monday to Friday, then we can start to build all of that. So opportunity.
I think Jan is probably the first member. Something surprises you every day. I've never heard a member say they want to work.
Well, supposed to be fair, to properly represent. So he's not saying, or she, I don't know their gender. Yeah. They're not saying, they love working Saturdays. I think they're saying that the extra work in the week doesn't make up for having the Saturday off. Yeah, because they want things to stay as they are because they think the changes will negatively affect them.
I think that there's a couple of things. I think that, one is a reassurance, which is that if you look at the agreement, Jam, that we've made, Martin and the officers have made with Royal Mail on the USO, the restoration of quality of service, so i.e. making sure that you have enough time in your day to do your job at a comfortable pace is key. If that's not the case in the pilot, then it goes no further. Simple as that. That is also fully embedded in the agreement with EP Group. If quality of service is not restored around the country, there is no major and final agreement on USO reform. So you have a commitment there on the workload worries. I think though there was also almost like a sort of a force on the union to be honest with the members as well, and that's important in communication. So what Jan says there about not wanting to change, I think we'd all say that, and everyone would say that. And the days in Royal Mail when we started were like quality days, and we all look back on those fondly. But we are in a world where, Jam, and all the members watching know, like, it's changing. The mix in your office is changing, the increasing parcels, decreasing letters. And we have, like, a number of choices, really. We can go down the line of, no, we're not changing. We can let Royal Mail do what they want to do. And let's be honest about it. They showed what that was during a dispute, and that's a disaster. Or we can get involved, shape the future, and try and protect jobs. And that's the option we've taken. And I think any day of the week, that's the right option. And it's also the responsible option, because as much as we'd all love the let's stay as we are at option, the truth is that equals, death by 1,000 cuts. And that will put thousands of jobs at risk if we don't get our head up and out of the sand.
And Kate, I want to go to you, because it's often the case that lots of the questions online are from people working for Royal Mail, which is great. Really, really active workforce. Lots of questions. Always really appreciate that. I'm concerned that might leave you out of the conversation because you're on the BT side. So talk to me about sort of what are the big changes that have happened on the BT side. Chris was just there talking about how it has become more challenging working for Royal Mail than it used to, because the business is changing. People are sending less letters. Obviously, it was privatised, and there is sort of this idea that you're saying is completely correct, that the deal used to be slightly better. Is it similar on the BT side?
Well, the complete face of BT has changed over certainly the time I've been working from 41 years ago, because I joined just before BT was privatised. So I started just before they were privatised, and it was sort of like a family. It got the atmosphere of a family business, really, because my dad used to work for BT, and it was a great place to work. Absolutely great. The managers, they were, you had to do your job, make sure you did the job, but it was just a really great place to work, and that has changed over the years. And that's why what Greg was saying about the changes, and you were saying there, Chris, that things do move on, things change, technology changes, everything. I mean, BT is no longer a telecoms company; it's a tech company. We do the broadband, the mobiles, broadband. I'm saying that fibre and all, whatever names, all the different ways of doing it. So we no longer, not many people still have a landline anymore. The traditional things that BT used to do has gone out the window a long time ago. So as technology has come in, the whole face of BT has changed. I mean, we've got OpenReach now, we've got the competition, that has made a massive impact on BT. And I mean, just look at the share price for one. I mean, it's now £1 something. I remember when it was £15 for a share. So lots of things have changed, the whole face of it. And we have questions about contractors, like I'm sure you have the same in Royal Mail. And we're always arguing against the use of contractors. We understand that you have agency or contractors in. If there's a finite little job that needs to be done, but if they continually use, we do have issues with that, and we are fighting that all the time. But yeah, and obviously we also took over the EE. We've now got a lot of EE managers, and I think the people who come in now, like we said before about, I was talking about when I first joined the union, about the unions and people knowing more politically. The managers we always used to have at BT, the senior ER managers, you used to have your tussles, but then you could, after the meeting, it was fine. But nowadays, the whole thing has changed. They come in from, most of the ER managers have only been in the company a couple of years, a bit like the CEOs of companies. They change all the time. They're here a couple of years, then move on. We've got Adam Crozier now on our board. We used to be with Royal Mail. So, do you know what I'm saying? So it hasn't got that where we used to have the employee relations people even. They've been in with the company for years now. They bring
It's
people
more
in.
impersonal now, basically.
Yes, and I think that's the biggest change I've seen as a union official over the years, is the change. And our membership and the workforce in BT and OpenReach is vastly reduced over well, certainly the last 20 years, but, and it as now AI and, everything else is coming in, we've got to really be aware of that, because although that's great in some circumstances, we want to make sure we protect our jobs, our jobs of our members from the introduction with AI. So we've still got challenges that are coming, but the challenges have come all over, and it's about how we adapt to that and bring our members with us, because it is difficult. And I'd love to go back to how it was working in BT when I first started. It was amazing. It really was. But, things move on, and we have to move on with them. I mean, because, we wouldn't want to be stuck back, 100 years ago for some of the things that went on there. And, I mean, we were talking before about how it was for union reps. I remember when I first got married, not to Martin, I've been married before, sorry, I digress. But you used to have your mail address to, I'll call it now, Mrs. Martin Walsh, that it would be, or Mr. and Mrs. Martin Walsh. You weren't a person. Some things are good that progress. Yes, okay, some things aren't as good. But, everything has to move forward, and we have to move with it. And it is hard sometimes. I understand with Royal Mail. They don't want to work, they don't want that change. Nobody wants that change. But we have to do that to survive. And that's what we have to make these agreements that, some members are never going to appreciate. They're never going to want to go with that. But we're trying to do that to save as many jobs as we can and to protect as many members as we can. And it is difficult. And we try our best, and this is what Chris does mainly in the comms department, is get as much information out so members are aware of everything that we're doing and why we're doing that. It's not for fun, we want to get the best thing for the members through these challenging, changing times.
And I mean, you've just spoken to what was going to be my next question actually there in part, which is if there's, some younger viewers watching this and they're feeling a bit like, well, you're all telling me how it used to be really great and now it's got a bit worse. Is there any... Well, you've actually sort of explained a very important way in which things have got better, which is sort of the recognition and respect for women in both in the workplace and, I suppose, the union as well. What else is there that we can sort of say might have... so it's not all just, hasn't everything got worse over the last 4 decades?
I can only speak for BT and Open. It's still a good employer. I'm not saying that, It has become more competitive and it was always bound to be that, And you can't always stay stuck in the past. But yes, BT employ a lot of people in Openreach, and they have got good jobs there. We're there to make sure that our members are treated fairly, and in the main, that does happen. But we're there to make sure and support our members when they are going through difficulties. But yeah, it's still a good place. And in general with the marketplace, not in all parts of BT, I have to add, as a union rep, because we have got some really low paid workers, but in the main, we have had good paid jobs. We're mainly direct labour. I mean, there are issues that we have to deal with, but we do in any company. There are issues with outsourcing, AI, and we have to do everything we can now to make sure that the people who do work there have the best time at work that they can do.
I think, I mean, obviously it's difficult for me. I'm just going to say it. I think our engagement with members has got so much better in recent years. So I can remember, being a postie and just literally there would be like a random branch office bulletin or something pinned to the wall, and we'd have a meeting once a year. I mean, one of the things that's really, I think, powerful is that whether it's criticism, whether it's a challenge, like Jam, come on and put there, there's no other union that does this sort of thing. No. There's not, even in today in 2025, there's not a single union where a member could come on and go, I don't like what you're doing. I don't agree with what you've done. Here's my view on what you should have done. And I think that, CWU is a unique union. Now, we've got challenges in both constituencies. We've got challenges with our employers. There's, the union never will get everything right. But I think that we also, at the same time, shouldn't beat ourselves up too much. I think we're the most transparent union in the country. I think, Dave's done an incredible job helping us raise the profile. Things like the New Deal for Workers. There's an employment rights bill going to Parliament that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this union. I have no doubt that Royal Mail wouldn't be a company if it wasn't for the union. All the stuff that we see happening now in BT and Openreach since Karen's appointment, or elections rather, as Deputy General Secretary. I spoke to a senior prominent right-wing journalist a few months ago after Karen did some media training, and he was just astounded at the level of skill and articulation that she had. Like and probably more important than all of that is we've got the best members in the trade union movement. Like people who go to every single door in this country, whether it's to fit broadband or deliver mail, and people who are there for people in need, our 999 call handlers. Like we've got loads to be really, really proud of, Michael.
I mean,
Can I come in on something that's really good for anyone that's joining both BT and Royal Mail? Is that and people would expect me to say this, is that they're trade unionised. There's recognition agreements, because those individuals, those people, men, women, young, older, whatever time of life they're in, if they was going to another employer that wasn't unionised, didn't have recognition agreements in place, then I feel for them, because they are at the whim and will of that employer, and there's very, very few employers in this country or across the world that, if they are not held to account, will do the right thing by their employees. So if there's one thing that is beneficial and is good still to this day and will be for the long-term future of their employment, is being in the trade union and having that representational structure that looks after them in their area of need. When they need it, they can turn to a local rep, an area rep, and to the national union. Now, like Chris says, we're opened up that anyone on the shop floor can actually get access to every individual at every level of our representational structure. So there is no hiding, and it comes back to that we have to communicate with them. We have to deal with their issues. So, I mean, for me, that, and I know my family, my wife is in a job that, she hasn't got that backing of the union. And, they expect her to work outside of her employment hours, outside of their contractual hours. So, yeah, for me, that is massive. For an individual, whatever age they are, whatever group, ethnicity they are, they're coming into a job that's got a trade union looking after them. It's massive.
I just looked up the stats. So when it comes to private sector union density in the country, it's only 12.3%. So to join a private sector company and have it with very high union rates, I suppose it's because of the legacy of it being a public sector company in a way, isn't it? That's why in the public sector, 50% of people are in trade unions. So that's sort of how trade unionism has really changed in this country, where it used to be the majority of people in trade unions were sort of in industrial manufacturing, and now it's public sector.
Just give two great stats there, which again show the quality of this union, because in both BT Group and Royal Mail Group, our density is just so far in excess of both of those figures, even the best one, the 50%. So, it's so much to be proud of, I think, in being a member of our union. It's just like an aside, really. I was just thinking about what it is like for people who aren't members of the union. When Greg raised the point, a friend of mine, a relative of his, got in trouble at work, and he rang me last week for some advice, and so I dusted off the old union rep days and got back into giving him some guidance. But she had been just sacked from the workplace, and when we got to the bottom of it, it literally was and get out. It was a small individual employer, no trade union recognition, no regard for the law, no regard for due process, no care about a potential employment. Get out, and you just think, actually, that's probably the conditions that the vast majority of workers in this company are employed under. And like you say, let's criticise, let's challenge, let's try and improve. That should be our everyday sort of ambition. But also, let's recognise that the union, and because of the members of the union, by the way, not because of Dave Ward or Martin or Karen, but because of the strength of the members, we don't face those conditions.
Yeah.
We've got 4 minutes left. I know there are some questions specifically about Royal Mail in the chat. I'm going to save actually those for a sort of future session where we're going to talk very much in detail about sort of happenings in Royal Mail. In the last couple of minutes, what I want to do is each of you to imagine you're speaking to someone watching this who's sitting on the fence about whether to sort of get more involved in the union, become a local rep perhaps. How do you persuade them? What's your elevator pitch before we end? And any other final thoughts you want to put in there as well? Who wants to go first?
You want to go first?
I don't mind.
Go on.
Go on then, Kate.
I think just being a member of the union first. I think the majority of people
You might
do.
find the love of your life, actually. That's your one, isn't it?
What can I say?
Moving
Work for
on.
me. We're not a dating programme here, though, I have to say. This is not. I can't even.
Trade union Tinder.
No, trade yeah,
Swipe
exactly. See, you've put me off now. Yeah. No, but yeah, to join a trade union now, I think most people, obviously, you can say by identity, can see the advantages of that. But for non-members, it is important to explain to people face-to-face, if possible, because it's always better to be able to is to say the benefits of being in the union. We've discussed tonight about the benefits collectively, about having the high density when we go into negotiations for pay, terms and conditions, all the big juicy issues. That obviously the more members we've got, the more chance we've got. So we can explain that to them. But we also explain what we can do for them personally. The fact that they have got somebody there that they can speak to just for a bit of advice, just to say, I've just heard this in the workplace. Is this true? A source of information. But nobody knows when they could get some, like an attendance issue, they have a bad run of sick leave, anything. It doesn't have to be a discipline or a grievance. When they need some support, we are there at the end of a phone or in the union office. They come down and they can talk to us, and we're there to help and represent them. And but not only for that, you could find, certainly we know in BT, there's been a lot more people being put in scope of redundancy. And it is difficult, and we can't save everybody's job. We try our best to try and mitigate the redundancies, but we're there to guide the people through at a really difficult time. So it's about the fact that we're always there. We're trained, we're there for people to assist them at some of the worst times that they have. Because a job's one of the most important things in a person's life. They've got to, if they want to, go on holidays, do whatever, pay the mortgage, obviously. So it's about explaining the worth of the union, what we can do for them, that we're always there to support them. We have got, the benefits, obviously, which is great, but that is the core of it, the fact that we're there to support them no matter what. Trying to get people to step up and become reps and progress in that. We can start off just not going straight from one to another. We can get them saying being a point of contact, the eyes and ears of the union. We'll send stuff to you. Can you pass it round? Can you start conversations in your workplace? Or the next thing, it'll be a workplace rep, and then what do you want to come on the committee? There's lots of stages before you then become a full-time person representing people. So there's lots of steps, and that's how we get a lot of people. Another way we get a lot of people coming through to be reps is when they have found themselves, needing advice or needing representation, and then they become interested in becoming a rep because they see what work we do for them. And I think it's getting those messages out to people, whether to join the union or to become more active in the union. It is a really good experience for them to get more involved, to find out more, because some people just think, the union, what do they do for me? The people who never have to see the union are the lucky ones that haven't had any trouble. They haven't had any disciplines, But we are there if they ever need us, and they do. You just never know, and you never know. You could meet the love of your life. What can I say?
The cherry on the cake.
The cherry on the cake.
Craig.
Look, I can just build on what Kate said there in terms
Meet the
of
love of your life.
yeah, absolutely. I've got mine.
Yeah, you said she wasn't unionised.
Yeah, Lisa's watching.
Very suspicious.
So yeah, no, I've met mine. So no. Look, there are so many troubles out in Royal Mail land, deliveries, collections, distribution in the network. There's lots of people that are voicing their opinions, so they've found their voice already. Yeah, what we need to do as a union is harness that voice that they've got. So the people that are sending in questions, they're the right questions. They're the people who will be able to transfer the questions that they've got to us to start asking Royal Mail those questions. They're the next generation of union reps coming through. So find your voice. get in touch with your branch secretaries, your area reps. If you're interested in becoming a rep, then there's plenty of opportunity for training. We're setting up training in terms of the new modules that have come out from the CWU. Kate and Martin and Tony Bush have developed training. So there's plenty of opportunity, plenty of people to talk to, plenty of training that we can give, and we'll harness that voice that they've got, that they're putting on social media platforms, sending questions into you, because they're the reps. They are the reps that are out there. And if we get hold of them and train them up, they will become workplace reps, and they will feel that they've got a voice, and then they can change what's going in their own workplace, and they'll take it on leaps and bounds from there.
Chris, you got the final word?
Yeah, just 3 really quick things from me, and I will be quick. Firstly, to those members who are thinking about becoming reps, thank you, because you've taken the first step, really. And as Greg says, you won't be left alone. All the training, all the support, all the communications, all the contact from your branch, from the National Union, from your division or your region will be there. So please do get involved. Secondly, if you are somebody who sees yourself as an ambitious person, then it doesn't have to be through management or through leaving the job. The union can harness that ambition as well. You could come and stand and be general secretary or deputy general secretary. I left school with little qualifications, and never thought I'd be meeting ministers or senior media figures, but the union's given me that life opportunity, and I'll be forever grateful for that. And third and finally, I would say the local job of a local rep in the CWU or any union is the hardest job in the union. We got it easy, being honest with you, particularly those of us who work at headquarters. And my message would be to our members, wherever it be online or in the workplace, to just think about, with the comments, with the challenges, just think about it, because I think if you put as much energy into coming on social media or giving your local reps a stick in the morning as you do getting behind him or her, then the strength and the solidarity of this union will be in a much better place. So I think if we're going to bring forward local reps, we need the volunteers, but we need to back them as well.
I was hoping that I'm one of the senior figures in the media that you were referring to.
Yeah, without doubt, Michael. Yeah. You're the rung above that. Yeah.
Chris, Greg, Kate, thank you so much for joining me. Really interesting stuff. Thank you so much for tuning into CWU Live. As always, we really appreciate you being here, supporting us and asking your questions. If there's anyone you particularly like to get on a future show, any themes you'd like us to cover, leave a comment below, or you can email us at info@cwu.org, and we'll see you again next week. Until then, stick with your union.